Shadowsun here. Welcome back to my channel. Hope you all are having a great start to the weekend. 3-day weekend for some and regular weekend for others. Whatever you decide to do, I hope you have a great weekend. Anyhow, so today I felt inspired by different things, mainly just inspired to share my first ever solitary spell. So something I did a few years into my practice. I had learned a couple things from previous spells and rituals I had done, but this one I wanted to share it to help others, and also just because I think that's something I think is useful to know, and it's also helpful just to show growth and progress. Also, I found that that was helpful to know, like, for myself early on, like what people do, what's a good spell to try on your first go around, what's something, that you learned from it, and so on and so forth. I shared in a previous blog post and video, which are linked below, how I did a ritual and what that ritual consisted of, and thought I would share just my own first solitary spell working. And at the time, and to this day, I still do a lot of things in a very ritualistic context. I do things within a like Wiccan ritual framework. So I did this within a ritual. So I was at the time learning about different ways to do that, different ways to cast spells. And at the time, I was learning about the full moon as well, and I had previous success with a spell before during a full moon and a ritual during a full moon, so I thought I would do it then. And I picked a couple of things that I would use, and I was also learning about colors and what colors to use, so I decided to do a prosperity spell, mainly because prosperity was something I needed at the time, and it was something that I really wanted to work on. So I decided to get a couple of crystals and a candle and do a candle spell. And before I got everything together, I made sure it was all charged and ready to go. And I just learned about like charging and how to charge crystals, so that was really neat to apply the concept. And I did meditation the night of the spell on like prosperity and what prosperity meant. I did it before the ritual, along with cleansing my space and cleansing myself. And I cast my circle. I did the whole quarter call thing, and I did an evocation to the gods that I worked with at the time. And I was learning about like things in books that talked about like statements that you would say to declare the intent of the ritual, so, and the spell. So what I did was I just kind of said what I needed, like in a really simplistic way, and I wasn't trying to make it complicated because a lot of the books made it complicated, and I didn't do it from a book. I just kind of improvised stuff that I needed and took a basic ritual outline and went from there. So I had quartz and aventurine, and I put the quartz and aventurine by this candle, and I used green because they say that green is supposed to promote prosperity. And I did my statement of intent, like I said, or as they've declared it in the books. So I did my whole thing. I made sure everything was all in its right place. I gave an offering of some water. I meditated on prosperity, and that's when I felt like it was time for casting the spell. And I didn't make a word because like most people do like words and chants and things like that, and I wasn't really comfortable with that at the time, so I just kind of focused on visualizing what I wanted. So I kind of visualized myself like receiving different things, like receiving money, receiving things that I needed in a way after doing that meditation. And as I was visualizing, I was focusing on that whole idea. Like I focused on the money, I focused on the feeling of money, and holding the money in my hand, and like really adding on my senses. And I felt the energy kind of build, and the candle at this point hadn't been lit, and I didn't mention that in the post, but the candle at this point hadn't been lit up until I started visualizing is when I lit it, began visualizing, and then I felt like this energy was kind of moving around. And also I incorporated movement into the experience because I learned about movement and like dance and things like that. So I decided to move around in the circle that I had cast, and I felt this energy building up as it happened, and I decided to make it a little more tactile. So I grabbed the crystals and passed them through the flame of that candle, and I just kind of held them as I moved and focused on prosperity, and I focused on the visualization. And then I proceeded to put the crystals back on the sides of the candle. And after I put the crystals down, I noticed like the candle was still burning, and I focused on the candle and looking at the candle burning, safety in mind, of course. And as soon as the candle kept on burning, the energy kept on dissipating. So as soon as the candle burned out, I just kind of left it alone, and I felt really tired. So I grounded myself by putting my hands down on the ground, and I gave more of an offering, and I gave thanks to everyone that was in that circle, and I released the circle and ended the ritual and that sort of thing. And then I left the crystals overnight, cleaned everything up, left the crystals on my altar overnight, and I kept those crystals with me in my purse the next day. And I kept on, and I just left it there, and I didn't even think about it. And then 2 weeks later, I'm getting money, I'm getting all these different things, I'm getting everything that I wanted and asked for, and I was just absolutely floored and excited at the same time. And I was really excited to learn more about like spell casting and crafting and writing and all of that, and that kind of spurred me on to learning more about spell casting and crafting. And I have cast that spell since, actually. I modified it a little bit. I did it as it was, like 1 or 2 times after that, like 1 or 2 months later, 3 years later even. I don't do that one too often, but I have done it before, and I did it as it was, and it still worked. It actually works within like a shorter time, I noticed, and I modified it a little bit to include not just visualization, but like an incantation that I've made for it. And the only regret I have is I lost the data from that spell, and I wish I had it back. Luckily, I remembered most of what I did. Anyhow, I hope that this experience, or sharing my experience, has helped you, and I hope that you have enjoyed this video, and I will speak to you all soon. I hope everyone has a great weekend. If you like what you see, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Many blessings.